Man, I got a lot to learn when it comes to how to do live streams. This is a little bit better though. A little bit better than the last one. It really is. I'm glancing over to the what would that be? Your left, right? Just see the screen that I have on. Well, thank you for showing up to this live stream. Tonight's going to be a rather long one, going probably for at least a good hour, probably an hour and a half. And that needs to be muted. Don't need those kind of interruptions. So I'm trying to. All right. Enough of my trying to make myself feel comfortable. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the carnivore diet, very similar to what we did last time. I'm calling this a question and answer Q&A. Now, at the end of the day, nobody is giving me a whole ton of comments filled with questions, and there hasn't been any questions on the live streams, or at least my last one. That being said, there's a lot of people online who are asking a lot of questions. And I'm gathering up those questions and wanting to speak into this. Now, first, I've got to say it. I am not a professional. I am a fan of health and nutrition. I'm a fan of losing weight. I have I have lost 52 pounds. 52 pounds in the past 2 years. Now, it should be down more. There's another gentleman who I've been following, and he is 1 month ahead of me, and he has lost all the weight that he needs to lose. I compromised. I compromised with carbohydrates because I thought that hey, it'll set me back, a couple of weeks. It's my birthday, it's Thanksgiving, it's Christmas, and birthdays, Christmas, Thanksgiving, it's surrounding food. And you know what? No hate. You go back to how people treated Christmas, how people treated Thanksgiving. And it's a time of thankfulness, it's a time of gratitude. And one of the things we're grateful for is the abundance that God has given us, that the land has brought forth. And we ate in gratitude and thanksgiving and celebration of what we have today, of what we've been able to achieve. And so I participated, we've all participated in the Thanksgiving. But I've been learning. I have been learning that the food that we use to celebrate, it's hurting us. It's hurting us in ways that, man, I could have never imagined. I grew up as a teenager. When I was a teenager, and I was still growing up and living with my family, living with my mother. What was the food that we ate? Primarily plants, carbohydrates, vegetables, fruit, things like that. And we ate what we could afford. My mother was a single mother living on welfare, and there was no, ribeye steak for dinner. In fact, if we had ground beef for dinner, that was considered nice. Chicken. Though there's this one food that she would get from the cow that I absolutely hated. Liver. I still don't like liver. Liver and onions. Who invented this combination? I bet you love it. I bet there's a whole bunch of people out there that might see this here video, that might catch the clip and go, "What's wrong with you, boy? What's wrong with you, man? Do you not know how wonderful liver and onions is?" But a lot of us have come to believe that we have to be sick, that being sick is inevitable, becoming overweight is absolutely inevitable. The vast majority of North Americans, of the Western culture, becomes overweight as they get older. Diabetes, heart disease, kidney problems, liver problems. You know, as someone who is not an expert, and I'm just observing, Getting older was not exactly desirable. I don't think I'm alone. I mean, how about you? Did you desire to get older? Looking at what getting older meant? I used to be a driving instructor and I would have young people in my car and we would end up with many varied conversations. Excuse me. And I would ask them about all kinds of things. One of the questions that would come up is about getting old. How old do you wish to, I would say like I want to live to 110, something like that. And not often, or I should say it was not uncommon for a young person to tell me they did not wish to get old. They wanted to stay young forever. I mean, yeah, stay young forever and never get old because they feared being a burden on their parents, on their friends, on the system, as they saw people around them becoming chronically sick, diabetes, liver problems, kidney problems, heart disease, dementia. And we the children, you know what, myself too, these young people, I shouldn't say just children, but the young people and myself too would look at getting older as something to fear. We have believed that we have no choice but to get sick and overweight, and I am trying to remind myself of the title of tonight's talk, and that's freedom from obesity and chronic sickness. There we go. I was busy getting frustrated as I couldn't remember. Freedom from obesity and chronic sickness. We could be free from obesity. How about we prevent it? I mean, I was learning about the stats and I do not remember the numbers. I got to get better with that. But there is a increasing number of young people every year that are being diagnosed as obese, and more of our children are ending up with old age chronic diseases. And do we have to be like that? In this live stream tonight, I really want to talk about that because I think it's something that I have feared and have become. I've gotten to a place where I don't fear it anymore. I'm 50 years old, turned 50 August 3rd, and I'm not afraid of it anymore. I'm not afraid of the diabetes. I'm not afraid of dementia. Yeah, I know that sounds crazy. I mean, some wacko on YouTube sitting there talking about not being afraid of dementia because I am convinced that dementia is preventable. Cures, I don't know. I haven't seen anything convincing about so-called cures. And there's all kinds of rumors. If you spend much time in religious groups that are really focused on conspiracies and health, they'll talk about cures for cancer, cures for dementia, cures for a lot of different things. And then you look into the data, you look into the stories. And the stories, they don't there's no data, just claims. But in the studies that I've been doing on health and nutrition and losing weight, I'm discovering there really is data, actual for real data that you could actually make decisions on. And so, first question, the failure of mainstream diets. I mean, what do we all eat? Standard American diet. And I say all, obviously there's exceptions. And there seems to be a spectrum, right? There's people that are eating the standard American diet that are trying to do it responsibly, healthfully. And I did. I grew up, I shouldn't say I was raised, but I grew up in the Seventh-day Adventist church. And if you know anything about the Seventh-day Adventists, they are huge on health. They're really passionate about health. And and they believe, in fact, that the health message is like the what is it, the left arm, the right arm of the gospel, which allows them to be able to, they can show people how to be healthy. They then can show people how to they can show people how to be healthy, and then they use that as a way of being able to introduce them to their version of the gospel. But standard American diet, there's people that are trying to be healthy, and how many of us, man, we're just surviving from day to day. We've got long hours at work. We don't have time by the time we get home to cook some elaborate regular meals from scratch meal. Definitely can't do that. And so we're buying our meals out of the box meals. I remember one of my favorite meals was Kraft macaroni and cheese, bowl of cereal, Mr. Noodles. It filled up my tummy. It made me feel better. I wasn't hungry anymore. The failure of the mainstream diets is that one are not nourishing. The Kraft macaroni and cheese, the cereals, the Mr. Noodles. I've got to stop looking over at the numbers. You see, I'm trying to see, is anybody watching? Is anybody watching? I'm so curious. Because at the end of the day, it's not whether or not there's a whole number of people looking at this live stream or looking at this video. It's about you, and you matter. You matter. So let me refocus again. The failure of mainstream diets. One of the big problems with mainstream diets, and I'm talking about what we use to lose weight, is that they are focused on depriving your body of what is requesting. It's requesting food. You're hungry. And so you eat. And what's happening is, in a lot of ways, yes, we are eating in excess of what our bodies actually need. And what does this do? But expand our waistlines. And so the majority of diets to help us lose weight, to help us get healthy, is to do calorie counting, focusing on depriving our body of what it needs, depriving our body of what our body requires in order to in order come here in order to get better, in order to lose weight. And it does work. It really does. Our body needs so many calories. It's an odd system, really, to use calorie counting, but let's just go with it. Our body requires so many calories per day in order to operate. And if we deprive our bodies of what it requires to operate, what's going to happen? Our body is then going to turn to its calorie stores, its nutrition, the fat stores that's stored all over our bodies, to continue operations. And if you're not getting enough calories, it takes from there, so you then lose weight. But the problem is that you are constantly fighting your hunger, constantly. I did this. I did this myself. I turned around and I got busy, and I started the Herbalife diet. And I don't really want to throw shade at Herbalife. I think that the people that are involved in Herbalife are trying to actually help people. They want to give them health, and they want to give them financial freedom. You know what? I'm all for it. Yeah, it's cool. But it is based on depriving your body of calories, trying to give it as much nutrition as possible, but depriving the body of calories so that you lose weight. And it did actually work for me. I lost 36 pounds on that diet. And it's good. It's good. I lost the weight, and I started really paying attention to what I was eating. Excuse me. Most of us on the standard American diet, do we actually pay attention to what we're eating? No, not really. I don't think so. I think there's a level of it. I think there's a level, like we know that we shouldn't consume, candy bars for supper. A candy bar salad. We know that, but we're short on time. We're overworked. We're stressed. I think that we try to be healthy within the confines of the lifestyle that we are able to afford. And so when we go on a diet, we actually, for the first time, pay attention to what we're eating. At least that's what my experience was. And I did lose weight, but I had to fight my hunger all the time. And there were these healthy snacks that they had available, very expensive, and they tasted okay. But in order to maintain that weight, I would have had to stay on those products pretty much for the rest of my life. I never would have been free of those products ever. And they're so expensive. It's a huge amount of money. And so I decided to let it go. Uh, yes, I was fighting the hunger, but the bigger problem was the budget. I endlessly was having to spend a lot of money on vitamins, shakes, and I'm testing my sound here, and I see that I've got to actually sit a little bit closer. I would explain why. Okay, so I see what I'm doing wrong here. Okay. Anyways, don't touch it too much. Um, I had to I had to buy vitamins, I had to buy meal replacement shakes, I had to buy a lot of things in order to maintain my diet, in order to maintain my weight loss. And that was not sustainable. And now that I've done the studies that I have, those type of foods are not providing your body with everything that your body needs, unlike meat. Red fatty meat does an amazing job of providing you with everything that you need. But those shakes and stuff like that, they help if you're comparing it to a sloppy standard American diet. As I look back here, and one of the things that people are talking about is like these healthy carbs. So they acknowledge, like obviously a candy bar or sugar cereals and things like that still get a pretty bad rap for how healthy they are. But when we speak about whole grain, whole wheat, ancient grain, and things like that, they are looked at more favorably. And I'm going to say rightfully so, because those grains are still packed with more nutrients that we're able to detect in the lab than say just simply white flour, white rice, and things like that. The problem with the whole grain though is that a lot of the times the nutrition that is available, or the nutrition that is in those grains, are not actually bioavailable to your body all that much. There is some availability, but it's not by that much. And you're still spiking your blood sugar with those whole grains, even though they're not, as I understand it, the whole grains don't spike your sugar as strong all at once, like a white flour will do, but it still spikes it. And the nutrition is not really bioavailable to you that's in those whole grains. And then this is a big one. I never knew this before, but fiber. Your body can't use fiber for nutrition purposes, and I'm learning that fiber actually does damage the large intestine. I won't say the large colon, but whichever. It actually does damage it. Yes, there's a lot of belief that I want to sit back. I really want to sit back. Can I do that? Come here. Do as I say. um, there is a lot of belief in the diet and nutrition circles that argue that there we go, getting a little bit better. I'm still getting used to this tool. Anyways, there's a lot of belief in the nutrition diet nutrition circles that fiber is essential for your diet. You have to have fiber, and what I'm learning is that that's not entirely true. It's not entirely true. And more, I'm leaning towards fiber really does not offer any benefit at all. Now, I'm learning this from Dr. Ken Berry, Dr. Anthony Chafee, Dr. Philip Ovadia, um, Judy from Nutrition. with Judy. She's a board certified nutritionist, I think is what it is. Anthony Chafee, he's a board certified. Okay, so he's a neurosurgeon who is also, I think he's gotten his master's in nutrition as well. And Dr. Ken Berry, he is a family physician, and he's done a tremendous amount of study into health and nutrition. They're all talking that fiber does not really provide your body any nutrition, and this makes sense. Back in the 1980s, when they were pushing this, so they being, basically the American government and health experts were noticing that the waistline in our bodies, the waistline of the North American waistline is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And they let me do it. Do as I say. They noticed that the waistline of North Americans is getting really, really big. And the body cannot do anything with fiber. And so the idea was, let people eat fibrous foods anyways. They're going to eat what they're going to eat. So just let them eat the fibrous food. Because what this will do is it'll fill up the stomach and cause a feeling of fullness so that they don't eat nearly as much of the food that your body can absorb. And the idea is that with then all this extra fiber in your body, you're going to eat less and you will lose weight. And I guess there were some results that have come through that have kind of shown that it does work if followed, I think, faithfully. But the problem is that it does deprive your body of nutrition, and it causes things like constipation and damage to the large intestine. So it's like a mixed bag of it's, I guess, yeah, it has some good points to it, but it causes other problems. And I know I've heard, like, if you have constipation, you got to increase your fiber. But everybody who increases their fiber always ends up with more constipation. I know I did, and it didn't help me at all. And a big, okay, so there's the counting calories to try and lose weight. There's the healthy carbs, which I think cause problems because they bring in fiber and they still spike your blood sugar, right? There is no such thing actually as an essential carbohydrate because your body produces all the carbohydrates you'll ever need. And I think it's through the liver. I think it's through the liver that the body produces all the carbohydrates your body will ever need. It doesn't need much. But the other big one with the standard American diet and diets to help us lose weight is our seed oils. Now, I think people are getting pretty hip to how seed oils or just oil adds a lot of calories to their meal. So if they're having a salad that may not have a lot of calories in it, that's absolutely true. The seed oils bring with it a whole bunch of calories that the plants don't actually have. And so you got to really be careful with the oil use when you're trying to make your salads. You got to really be careful with that. But another problem with seed oils is that they're very inflammatory, causing all kinds of digestion problems and other problems throughout your body because they lead to inflammation. I'm checking over here on my notes to make sure that I'm saying the right thing. I'm saying the right thing. That, yeah, seed oils are very inflammatory, and they increase your calorie intake, but they also interfere with the mitochondria function within your cells. This is what I was learning, and I'm trying to remember who I learned it from. And I want to say Zoe Harcum, I believe, is who I learned this from. But what she said is that the seed oils, okay, so your body, your cell needs fat in order to function, and preferably the cells want animal fats in order to function, including, I guess, like your own fat that's on your body. Seed oils are similar to that fat, And so the body can kind of use that fat, but it's not optimum. And it somehow interferes with the mitochondria. And please forgive me, I struggle to remember the details as this is way above my education. But what they're it seems that what they're arguing is that when you consume seed oils, it interferes with the mitochondria. And one of the things that's absolutely clear is seed oils lead to a lot of inflammation. There's also they cause challenges with free radicals, something like this, because seed oils actually um, they deteriorate super fast, really fast. And they have to do a lot of processing to the oil to get it to be stable. A wild amount of processing that causes that oil to be to malfunction in the body. It just does not work. And I realize that I'm not describing this very well, as I realize now as I'm talking that I need to brush up on these details so I can get it down correctly. Because basically, what I'm remembering is don't touch seed oils. Leave the seed oils alone. They don't help. Now, this does not include, I'm learning this, olive oil. If you can get a pure, true, extra virgin olive oil and you don't heat it, because if we heat olive oil, it wrecks it. It totally ruins it. But if you can use it cold, it's actually apparently quite healthy. And apparently, coconut oil is also apparently quite healthy. But aside from those two plant oils, as best as I can tell, the rest of the fats that we should be consuming is tallow, beef fat. Whoops, as I wiggle it here, lard, duck fat, whatever. Animal fats seem to be really what the body needs, not seed oils. And so that's a big deal. And that's what I've learned about some of the big failings of the mainstream diet. But here's another one, and this one is huge. The mainstream diet, the mainstream the mainstream diet, as I totally get distracted again, and I apologize, is nutritionally deficient. Yeah, that's big claims. Okay, take a look at your cereals. Just go with the cereal. If you read it, they're constantly listing all kinds of vitamins that they have added in order to make up for the nutritional needs that your body has every single day. On top of that, you need to consume a multivitamin and different types of vitamins, vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin K, vitamin B12, right? The whole list in order to maintain proper human health. Okay, wait a second. If the proper diet, the proper human diet that's built on the standard American diet, but the healthy version of it, right? Let's people are trying. You're trying. You're doing your very best. You still need to add all of these supplements in order to be healthy. If that's what's needed, then how is it that these are called healthy diets? And I am including your vegetarian diets, your vegan diets. I grew up Seventh-day Adventist. Vegetarianism has been advocated for by the Seventh-day Adventists for like 130 years, 140 years, something like that. I forget when they exactly started advocating for it, but they've been doing it for a very, very long time. And if it was so healthy, why do they need endless amounts of vitamins and supplements in order to maintain what their body needs? And the vegan, and no hate, boss, no hate. I'm not trying to throw shade at somebody who's trying to care about the planet, that's trying to be kind to animals, and that is trying to be healthy. I'm no shade, man. But in order to maintain health, they have to supplement like crazy. It doesn't make sense to me that then is a healthy diet because it's nutritionally deficient. And what ends up happening is that our bodies are screaming for nutrition. And so we get ravenously hungry, very hungry. I should be fair, very hungry. And so we end up eating more calories than what our body requires, trying to get the nutrition that our body actually requires. And this is one of the things I'm learning is that a lot of people, a lot of North Americans, myself included, we are overweight and starving. And I'm not talking about hungry for a pizza. That's not what I mean. We're starving for nutrition. And so we eat 2 hours later, I need more. 2 hours later, 2 hours, we know the system, right? And yes, we skip breakfast. I've always skipped breakfast since as an adult. As a child, it was different, but as an adult, I've always skipped breakfast. But then I would eat too much throughout the day. The amount of carbohydrates that I consumed, we're starving. North Americans are starving. Uh, I'm ranting long enough here. Let me get to the next question. So I've got a list of notes here just to make sure I don't ramble for too long because man can ramble. I digress. The trap of chronic sickness. Now, I alluded to this a little bit earlier, but North Americans are struggling with rising and rising rates of clogged arteries. They say heart disease. I don't like that title. Clogged arteries. Our arteries are getting all clogged up around our hearts, causing freaking heart attacks. And I'm a little bit passionate here because my father had 4 of them. I had to drive him to the hospital every single time. Hmm. We're getting heart disease, we're getting we're getting cancer, not lung cancer, but cancers, we're getting dementia, diabetes, we're getting fatty liver disease, failing kidneys, gallstones, all right, on and on and on. You understand? Chronic disease. You go back to 1900. Pick a well-fed town in the United States. Excuse me. You pick a well-fed town in the United States. How much heart disease is then in that town? Let's say there's 20,000 people in that town. How much heart disease? How much diabetes? How much pick it? How many people are sick with chronic diseases back in 1900? Now we're in 2025. And I wouldn't trade places with somebody in 1900. I think there's some real amazing advantages. Look at you and I. We're having this conversation right now. That's not possible in 1900. But the people were healthier. The people today, we have what's the leading causes of death? I forget what the age groups are, but I think it's heart disease is the first one and cancer is the second. And then other diseases, chronic diseases are hitting more and more people as being causes of death. And then when you start getting into environmental causes, those numbers are way low in comparison. I've come to believe from the studies that I've been doing that our diet is what has changed from 1900 to 2025. Our diet is what's changed, not our genetics. We're still human. You're human. Our diets have changed. In 1900, the consumption of breakfast cereal was unheard of. You go back to 1875, doesn't exist. Doesn't exist. Today, breakfast cereals are pushed on young people. They say breakfast is the most important meal of the day. And I think it's been getting out there that it's not entirely true. Right? Like people are starting to kind of hear that. But then what's the alternative? If that's not true, then what is? What am I supposed to be doing when it comes to food? When it comes to my diet? When it comes to those kind of things? What am I supposed to be doing? They're not having breakfast in 1875. That's cereal at least. They might have eggs and bacon or something like that. Who knows? I got to admit, I'm not entirely sure what exactly they ate in the morning. But what I am becoming convinced of is that when they had their first meal, it wasn't 6 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock in the morning or, in the morning. It was after the chores, after a certain point of the day. It's like around 11 a.m., 10 to 11 a.m., they would break their fast from their last meal from the day before. And that meal would consist of what they could get from their farm. Not the way we do it today. And what I'm trying to point out, what I'm trying to say is that in 1875 and 1900, when all these chronic diseases were unheard of, what has changed is the food that we consume since then. Ridiculously changed. There was no supermarket, and there wasn't there wasn't the consumption of wheat. There wasn't the at the level the consumption of wheat, the consumption of soy, the consumption of oats. In fact, as I was learning, those foods were either considered foods for animals or foods for the poor. Poor people consumed corn, oats, wheat, and things like that. And when we go to the doctor, I'm just checking back at my notes here so I don't get off track too far. When we go to the doctor and we present ourselves to them with the chronic diseases that we have, what do they offer in return? Pills, medications. And I am not throwing shade at the doctors. The doctors go to school, they get trained a certain way, they get taught how to help. They get into medicine most of the time for the purposes of helping people. That's why they are there. I'm sure you can point out the bad apples, and I believe you. I do. But they're there to help. The vast majority wanted to help. I've taught them as a driving instructor, But all they do is hand out pills. In 1900, when somebody was obese, did the doctors hand out pills? In 1875, when somebody was obese, I'm just going to stick with the obese, maybe fatty liver, did they hand out pills? Or did they demand that they change their lifestyle? And you go up to say 1950, did they hand out pills or did they chase after lifestyle? What I've been learning, they chase after lifestyle. But then as more and more pills became available, and it's a lot of profit with medications. You and I, we can't make those medications at home. We depend on those industries, on those companies to give us to manufacture those products so that we can then purchase those products to make ourselves better. And health and nutrition specifically, we don't actually need the factories for that. Eggs, beef, chicken, duck, lamb, the list. You don't need a factory for that. Those are things you could actually grow at home if you were so determined. I mean, if you were so determined, but you could be determined out of your tree, and the ability to make the medications that are available. Yeah, right. I believe that for certain influential individuals, yes, I think they found an opportunity and they have moved away from nutrition and over to medication to maintain our sicknesses, not necessarily to cure them. Because healthy people don't pay money for pills unless you get into the supplements. And as I already suggested, as I bang the equipment around, the supplements I think are also an issue because if you're getting a fully nutritious diet, if you are consuming a fully nutritious diet, you are not going to need to spend tons and tons of money on supplements. Also something that you cannot make at home. You require those companies. And again, I believe these companies, for the vast majority of them, unless someone can show me otherwise, they're coming from an honest place. They really do want to help people. They want to help you. They want to help me. You know? All right. I've ranted long enough on that. So there was a turning point for me. I grew up the way most people did, eating the standard American diet, and I believed that the primary reason why I was getting overweight was a lack of physical activity. My love for Burger King and McDonald's, sushi. If you've ever been to Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, you got to check out the food scene there. It's nuts. And they got some choice flipping sushi, man. It is good. And I believed that I was going to be overweight for the rest of my life, and there wasn't much I could do about it unless I was willing to spend freaking loads of dough on supplements, meal replacement shakes, and the gym. How many of us are are working our butts off, as I try to keep this nice and clean, running around in a gym to try and lose weight or at least maintain our body's health? Now, I am not in any way, shape, or form suggesting that our bodies somehow are going to function optimally by just sitting around. But what I am suggesting is that we don't need the gymnasium to lose weight. And we don't need the gymnasium, so far, based on what I've been learning, to stave off a lot of the chronic diseases that we are dealing with. Let's go with heart disease. Let's go with that one. I'm thinking of David Letterman, he was a very healthy man. He did everything to be healthy, but he got a heart attack. How many bodybuilders get heart attacks, and they're supposed to be the epitome of health? And I'm thinking also of like just regular athletes that are not in the numbers that obese people are dealing with, but people who are athletes are dealing with heart attacks. And the way I'm phrasing that, I'm wanting to say other diseases, but I'll just leave it at that: heart attacks. And I'm learning that that to stave off heart attacks, to stave off all the diseases that we fear, it's just our food. I was 220 pounds and overworking. I was doing 90 hours a week in a sedentary job, sitting on my duff all day long, teaching people how to drive. Now, the actual teaching, it wasn't stressful. There was moments of stress, yeah, but I loved the job. I loved those people because 60% of my students were freaking adults. It was amazing. I loved it, and I was good at it. Okay, I think I was good at it. I enjoyed it so much. Um, and I was just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I kind of just accepted my fate and just basically had put it out of my mind. Thank you very much. I'm not thinking about this anymore. I came across a video on my YouTube feed. I don't watch a lot of entertainment. I don't listen to a lot of entertainment. I don't listen to a lot of music or movies or TV shows or anything. I consume information from YouTube. And I came across this video very much by random. I forget even what the title was. So why did I click on it? Two gentlemen, PhD doctors, sitting there talking. And they're talking health stuff. Oh, yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. Then all of a sudden, one of them started talking about how it's not necessary for us to have vegetables in our diet. And then he started to criticize the vegetarian teachings. And then he mentioned the Seventh-day Adventist Church. My ears just peaked up like crazy. You don't hear that church very often in common conversation. And he wasn't speaking about it in a positive light. But he was coming from facts. He was naming data. He was naming events. He was naming just facts and concluding that our bodies do not need plants in order to thrive, and that in fact our bodies need and desire animal products in order to survive. That led me down a rabbit hole like you would not believe. And I spent a month just gorging on content about what the body actually is made of, what the body actually can absorb, what the body actually, on and on and on and on. And this rocked my world. I had believed with all my heart that the Seventh-day Adventist Church taught nothing but truth. Maybe the members goofed things up, but the church itself was teaching truth. And this guy was pointing out, no, it don't. No, don't. And it was on the topic of diet. And he was bringing forward all kinds of evidences. And this shook me, but also gave me something I hadn't had before: hope for my health. You mean that all I need to do is just change my diet to eating nothing but meat and I could lose the weight that I have? I'm 5'4", 220 pounds, and I could get that down to an actual healthy weight based on just changing my food, no exercise. I'm about to add an extra list of things there, but no, just no exercise, is just changing my meat or changing my food. That's it. Yeah, I was shocked. So I studied for a month. And after watching this one gentleman, his name was Kerry from Homestead How. He's a month ahead of me. And Buddy had been doing the diet for 30 days. He was desperate. I was on the verge. And he's like, this works. And it gave me assurance that there was this average dude, this regular guy that said, you can actually lose weight eating nothing but meat. And it was actually working for him, but not just losing weight. No, he's starting to list all these health benefits are going on and on and on. Freaking depression, freaking pain in his foot, arthritis, joint pain, all kinds of stuff. Back pain was disappearing for him. On and on and on. I decided to give it a try. I went crazy cold turkey, and I don't recommend necessarily to go cold turkey, because if you've ever eaten too much of something, your body can punish you. Or if you do it like a sudden diet change, your body smack you around a little bit. It did to me. 2 weeks in, I had lost some weight. I really had, and it was cool. It was so amazing. Like, I think it was like 8 pounds I had lost in 2 weeks. Maybe it was more. I don't really remember. But I had figured out that this okay, let me get that thought again. I had lost I had lost a bunch of weight. I don't remember the exact amount. And I was out with my buddy and his family, and we went shopping at a pier in Surrey, British Columbia, go buy a bunch of fish. And we're walking around, and all of a sudden I catch on. I'm like, wait a second. My back don't hurt. Normally within 10 minutes of standing, my back would start to just ache. And I had just decided, I guess, I sit all day and I'm overweight. I don't have a bad back. I wasn't born with a bad back. I'm just getting the effects of sitting around all the time. And now all of a sudden, I'm walking around for 2 hours. And yes, I've lost some weight, 10 pounds, something like that. And I don't have a bad back. No pain. I was freaking tired, and I was wore out because I'm out of shape, but no pain. Yeah, blew me away. Absolutely blew me away, and that caught my attention. The weight loss was cool. I liked it, but no back pain. And that meant that all those benefits that this Kerry guy from Homestead How and what he was claiming after 30 days of doing the diet, is there something to that? I've been dealing, or I had been dealing with heartburn like crazy for years. I didn't get hunger pains. Nope. I got heartburn. I knew I needed to eat something because I was getting heartburn. And I would try to sometimes stave it off, have something to eat before that would happen, but sometimes that would give me heartburn anyways. What, 2 weeks on that diet? 2, 3 weeks? Absolutely no more heartburn. No more pain. I started to feel hungry. Herbalife had given me that. But now just changing my diet, doing nothing expensive. I'm eating chicken, I'm eating pork, I'm eating bacon, eggs, and beef, ground beef, right? Nothing crazy expensive. No more heartburn. I was convinced. I was convinced that there was more to this, and that what I had been taught from whatever source you want, pick it, school, television, parents, the doctor, what I had been taught was inaccurate. Again, I stayed on the diet and I was hardcore faithful. Went through all the challenges except for the keto flu. I never got that. I just got my tummy saying, "Hey, this is a big change. What are you doing?" I didn't get the keto flu though, and I think that's because I consumed a lot of salt. I was consuming quite a bit of salt. I do tend to salt quite a bit. And in 6 months, I was down 30 pounds, 32 pounds. Altogether, in 12 months, I got it down to 52 pounds, and I've stayed at that until recently, until very recently. I have learned compromise freaking ain't worth it. You know, when you compromise with that which is good, you're going to get the benefits of compromising from what is bad into what is good. There's actual bad benefit for that. But if you compromise with bad from what is good, it's not worth it. And I'm not trying to talk to you like you're a child. You're not a child. You're not a child. It's just, it was really illustrated to me in a very, very real way. And what I did is, birthday, Christmas, can I speak? Thanksgiving. What we all celebrate with food, right? And so I compromised. Carbohydrates. It was delicious. I don't have any allergies, no allergies, but I ended up not losing weight. I ended up pausing and plateauing my weight loss, all because I compromised with those carbohydrates. And I stayed at the 52-pound loss mark and then gained some weight over the next 12 months because I kept on compromising. Went across Canada, didn't stay faithful to the diet, thought it was too hard to do so when traveling, did a week of eating the wrong food. I'll just say the wrong food. And when I got to my new home, I continued to compromise here and there. And I have now realized I cannot compromise with carbohydrates. I cannot compromise with my body. This is a finely tuned machine. You can't you I don't know, in a way I want to say it that way. We cannot compromise with our bodies the way that we get taught we can by advertisers. Oh, come on. It's just the weekend. Man, have a beer. What that does in our body chemically is incredible. And I gain weight that fast. Freaking look at a picture of a burger and fries and I gain 2 ounces. The saying goes, I say that in jest, but I mean, I gain it so fast. And I think to myself, you take a look at somebody who has a peanut allergy and their body explodes with all kinds of reaction. We're like, oh, don't eat that. Man, that's causing you problems. Could obesity be a sign of an allergy? Especially with some of us who get overweight so easily, so quickly? Man, I want to say 3 months, I've really been disciplined. I mean, no compromise, none. Back to what I did the first year, the first 12 months. I'm losing weight again. I'm eating nothing but meat. I'm not getting scurvy. I'm not getting all kinds of other. There's no keto flu. There's no any issues, right? That you would expect that we've been taught that we're going to have if we don't consume lots of plants. None of them. None of those issues have happened. I'm convinced. Again, I'm not a professional, right? Man, as a population, we need to really start taking our lives. I'm preaching. Sorry, man. Sorry. I'm trying to say this with absolute respect because I got to point, when I point out at you, right, there's like 3 more fingers pointing back at me. So I'm speaking to us. You know what I'm saying? Us. We need to start taking responsibility for the lives that we have more than what we already have. It's kind of a weird way of saying that. We're told what to eat by the advertisers who are going to profit heavily if they can convince us to eat what they have to sell. We're advertised and told what to take when we get sick, who by advertisers, by companies that are going to profit heavily if they can convince us to take their medications, to take their whatever product they have to sell. We're told. And where's the research to tell us the comparisons or anything like that, right? It's hard to find. I didn't even know half the stuff that I've been learning now until I started stumbling into it by accident. It's not out there. It's not in the mainstream, if you will. I mean, a lot of us are really frustrated and upset with this Bobby Robert Kennedy Jr. And we're told not to like this guy. But then you start listening to all the little details. And I'm like, man, I've heard that before. Man, I remember this group complaining about that particular health concern. And this group over here, they're complaining about that health concern. And Bobby is just like talking and talking and talking this stuff. I'm like, we need to start studying for ourselves way more. And I got to say, because I did no differently, man. And I still struggle with this where I want to I want to just take what is being said to me and I don't do the work. I let everybody else do the work. And then I can just ride along in their coattails and not try. And the way I'm saying this, I'm still preaching. I'm sorry. I've got to learn how to be able to communicate these ideas without sounding like when I speak, I'm speaking from a place. I care about you. I care about us. I want us to be able to have healthy lives, to live long lives, so we don't end up in some old folks' home, wasting away, tied up to tubes, taking more drugs than a drug addict, and just waiting to die. What if we could live well? One of the one of the themes of my YouTube channel is that we don't have to be sick. Let me show you another way. And the point of that is to say that you and I together can be healthy and we can freaking thrive when we're older. That we don't have to wait to just die off. We've retired, we're no longer valuable to the economy, and so they stuff us away in the corner because we have nothing more left to give. Think about all the knowledge that you've acquired over the years you've been alive. How much do you have to give? And is it just and the only thing you're worth is just the taxes you have to offer, or the I'm stumbling here. We are worth far more than the taxes that we pay, or the rent or mortgage or products that we buy. You are worth way more than that. But when we're unhealthy and we're fighting for our lives, we're fighting with our health. How can we offer more to the world than what we I got distracted again. Something else I'm trying to work on is not getting distracted. We have far more to offer this world than just simply the product that we produce. And when we are in our 60s, when we're older, whatever, maybe you're 35, maybe you're 28, maybe you're 28. What if you were healthy? What if you didn't have to take pills and supplements and everything like that, and you could devote your life to the dreams, desires, you could devote your life to creating value in this world in your unique way? What if? But if we're sick like crazy, chronic sickness, how is that even possible? I saw this video. All right, I apologize. I'm totally digressing, but hear me on this. Hear me on this for a sec. Saw this video of this young lady. She was 13 years old and was beginning to show the signs of dementia. Understand something that's never been seen before in history, at least in North America. And I know of no cases that came from Europe and and quote unquote the old world, right? Ain't never been heard of in North America until recently. 13 years old, has signs of dementia. By the time she was 16, she was full blown freaking Alzheimer's. What kind of life did she want to have? right? We get upset about some of the horrible things that we see happen to people in the news, right? And their lives get taken away, and rightfully so, man. No, I'm not playing. I don't play with people's. No way, man. 13 years old, already sick with dementia. How about the young people that are dropping on the floor and being prematurely expired, to say this in a very polite way, before they've even reached adulthood? Just taken away. Go back to 1850, where young people passing away. Yeah, it happened. It absolutely did. It totally happened, right? Environment would cause them to pass away. Disease or accidents and things of that nature. Nobody was becoming absolutely obese and passing away of a heart attack. Nobody was becoming absolutely, I want to say obese again, but just sick with diabetes and passing away, or complications with diabetes and passing away. This did not happen in the 1800s and early 1900s. My point, my point in stating all that is that we could actually live well if we did not have to fight for our health. And there's so many young people, and you know what, older people. I'm 50, whose lives are being absolutely cut short, or at least imprisoned, by chronic sickness that all they can do is manage. They're never cured. They never get better. They just manage it until one day they have to take a dirt nap. Mm. Now, I've really gone off on a tangent here. I have discovered through my research and my own personal experience that eating meat has been exactly what has made my health way better. I've lost weight. I've gained all kinds of health benefits, all kinds of chronic problems I was dealing with. I was racing towards diabetes, and I changed my diet to meat and to fat, animal fat. I've lost so much weight. And there is a bit of frustration in my voice. There is a bit of frustration because it, we've been told differently, passionately been told differently. Man, I'm getting off topic so big time. Okay. So one of the things that I'm learning about why meat works, why our bodies thrive on meat, is because of okay, there's a bunch of reasons. One of those reasons is nutrient density. Meat has exactly what our bodies need in the proportions that it needs it, and it's almost 100% bioavailable. I say almost because, yeah, I don't know. Not a doctor, right? I don't have a lab I can go and do research in, but it is almost 100% bioavailable. Your body does not need supplements and special things from a factory in order to be able to access the nutrition that meat has. It's just there. Your body uses it, and you end up with a lot less waste, way less waste. And one of the things I've learned, and it's becoming my opinion too, that if your body is not absorbing very much, it ends up with a lot more waste. But if your body is absorbing a whole lot, almost everything, you end up with very little waste. If I can say that in a way that's polite. Meat has zero anti-nutrients. Plants are packed with anti-nutrients because it does not benefit the plant if you and I consume it. When animals of nature consume the plant does not benefit per se. Some of the fruits and stuff like that, yes, but for the most part, it doesn't benefit the plant. So the plant has all kinds of toxins to try and keep themselves unedible. Unedible? Not edible, so that there are fewer and few there are very, very few creatures that can consume them, and so they end up thriving because they can't run away. They can't just take off and fight you or escape. They're stuck in that spot. So chemicals are what they use to protect themselves. Even in the fruits, most fruit, you can't eat it. You and I, we can't eat most fruit. It's not nutritious or it's plain dangerous. Meat, it's 100% nutritious. If you can catch it, if you can get it, that's it. The fight is over. If you can get it so that you're able to eat it, there is no danger for your body. That's incredible. Okay, so check this out. And then the protein and fat fuel healing and weight loss, like I've been going on and on and on about. It actually helps with healing. Your body is made up of protein. Our bodies are made up of protein, calcium, fat, cholesterol, water. I'm forgetting some stuff. Collagen, and all of that's available in meat. That stuff is not so available in plants. And I have heard the argument where if you eat the rainbow, if you get as much food as you can from around the world, right? And then there's also the arguments of eating locally, but we'll just say around the world, you will be able to get all the nutrition that you need. I don't agree with it. Because if that's the only way that we can get the nutrition that we need, how in the world was the human species able to survive for thousands of years without access to that type of food gathering? Up until recently, you ate what was was outside your backyard, so to speak. You had to eat locally. And if we needed to go around the globe to get all the food that we needed, we wouldn't have survived. We absolutely would not have survived. And I suddenly had this thought. They say that the average life expectancy was something like 40 years, 45 years. Some were saying 55 years. It depends on where you go. And they'll say that the reason for that is because people didn't have access to proper nutrition and proper medicine. Yeah, so I learned that's not true. The reason why the life expectancy was so low is because they include in those statistics infant mortality. It's kind of sad, but a lot of children passed away before they ever reached, I forget what the certain age is. But if you get past a certain age, like say 9 years old, 7 years old, whatever it was, you lived a rich, long life. Rich meaning, you could live, and you lived well. And the only things that they had to they were concerned about is infection and accidents when it come to their life expectancy. But they weren't passing away from, how do I say this, malnourishment. There were pockets of populations that were dealing with that, absolutely. But that's not human history. Lots of people lived, or lots of people groups lived long lives. They really did. And so as I get back on track here and remember my point, people ate animal fat and protein because that's always been available to people out in their backyard. They did not have to travel far for that food. And then whatever plants they ate was local, very local, and typically just fruit. And then they did consume roots, leaves, bark, things like that. Roots, leaves, bark, seeds for medicinal purposes, and I think some for flavoring. It depends on where you go. I mean, India, my goodness, do they got flavor? I'm getting dry here. I'm going to grab myself a little drink here for a second. Somebody did leave a message. What's it say? What's this now? I've put this in the wrong spot and I freaking can't see the message from where I'm sitting. Oh, and I do not know how I could actually access that to be able to see what that message says. I know people do it all the time. They grab their phone and they just look on their phone. I'm going to go to my YouTube studio just to see if that's how it's done, because I have no idea. Nope. This is definitely not how it's done. So I do not know. I do not know at all how to read that message from where I'm sitting. Where I'm sitting my cam or my screen that I use is being blocked partially by my computer, as I'm still working out this system, how to make it work properly. And it would be very weird for me to bend myself all over the place to be able to read that message. To whoever wrote that, Phil McIntosh, I do apologize for not responding. My bad. My bad. I'm sorry. I'm going through this list of stuff, of questions that I've come across because I mean, I'm still very much a new YouTuber, so I don't have like a huge list of questions that I need to answer. So I'm talking about stuff that I have asked and that other people have asked, and just sharing because man, we don't have to be sick. We do not have to be sick. We can be healthy. And we don't need no freaking factory to be able to get us to a place where we're healthy. People did it for years. And what not for real. For real. Hear this. Hear this. Hear this. People did stay healthy for years, like the Inuit in northern Canada. And I guess United States too, right? Alaska. The Inuit. They did not have huge like massive access to plant life. They primarily lived on blubber, fat, and protein. And I remember when I was being taught about vegetarianism and how healthy it was for you, they used the Inuit as an example of um, eating high levels of animal fat and animal protein that would make you sick and it would shorten your lifespan. Come to find out, freaking load of trash. The Inuit lived as long as anybody else did. As soon as they got past a certain age of infancy, they lived long, long lives. First Nations, the Plains First Nations. I think Americans call them Plain Indians, the Plains Indians, but First Nations, right? Was it the Cherokee? Something like this. All right, these guys were among, I think they either were the tallest or among the tallest humans on the planet and were very long lived. No bad teeth, no rotten teeth. They had no access to toothbrushes and toothpaste and all that kind of stuff. No bad teeth. Their teeth were totally straight, very, very tall, and very long lived. Now, I think it's anthropologists. I want to say anthropologists. People who study history would argue that the First Nations, the Cherokee First Nations, were not accurate in their reporting. But here's what they used to say. Pardon me. They said that they would regularly report that their elders were well over 100 years old, claiming to be, I say, over 120 years old. And scientists today will argue, well, maybe they weren't good at counting and, you know, but that's fascinating. Let's just pretend they're living normal, average lives in the sense of length. They did not eat tons of vegetables. They did not eat tons of plants. They used plants for medicinal reasons and primarily consumed, well, buffalo and fish. And I think like the fish they could get in the rivers, but buffalo lived super long lives. I keep beating up the poor Mike. I'm sorry. We need plants to be healthy. And then if we don't do it, we'll end up with heart disease. We're going to end up obese. The opposite is taking place to me. And the people groups that were focused on eating animal products, primarily animal products, tall, long-lived, healthy, and the Inuit too. The First Nations that lived in the north, their teeth also perfectly fine. But people groups that consumed a lot of plants, completely different scenario. Um, a lot of people groups that have been studied in the jungle, so to speak, where they primarily lived on plants, rotten teeth, all kinds of sicknesses, shortened lifespan because the body has to work much harder in order to extract the nutrients from the plants and then convert it into the different compounds that the body needs. And some of us cannot actually produce some of those compounds. Excuse me. I've got on here weight loss freedom as I've gone on this huge tangent. But let me talk on this for a second. I weighed 220 pounds. If you've ever been really, really overweight, I think you'll be able to relate to this. Trying to tie your shoes, and you got to, spread your legs really wide apart. You got to get your stomach in the right way, all to be able to, and you got to bend your foot in an odd way, tying your shoe totally off center because you cannot get to your feet properly. Or how about this? You're on a couch and the couch is nice and soft and you're sunk inside of it and it's great. Then you're trying to get out of that couch and you're having to swing yourself, breathing issues, um, struggle. I would say struggle with in bed at times. And I'm talking about like, getting comfortable and stuff like that. Getting out of my car. I used to have a Mazda 3 sedan. Love that. Beautiful car. Really enjoyed that car. But try to get out of that at 220 pounds, 5'4" tall. It was a battle. I hated being fat. I'd accepted it, but it wasn't something that I was just finding joy in. And then, and this is vain. I get it. It's vain. And even the things I've described are kind of vain. I mean, the main reasons to get, to lose weight and to get to a healthy body size is for the purposes of health. Your body functions way, way better when it's at a healthy weight. But I did not like what I saw in the mirror. Now, it didn't mean I, was always looking for a mirror to go look at myself, or, I wasn't into the whole, love myself and at any size or stuff like this. I wasn't into it. At the same time, though, I didn't like what I saw. And I've seen pictures of myself recently that were from my marriage, my wedding. And I'm so big. My body, my gut just way, just sticking out like this and hanging over my belt. And I still have weight to lose. I've as I fall away and I'm not putting the mic where I can be heard, but I still have weight to lose, right? But minus those 52 pounds, getting in and out of a couch, it's easy. I can tie my shoes properly. I can get in and out of a car easily, really nicely. And though I still don't like that I still have I think about another 30 pounds to lose. Boy, does it look better. And I've hidden my chin with this massive beard, but like it's up. It's not bulging down. I look better. I don't think I'm going to be running for GQ magazine or something like that. But I like better what I see in the mirror. I really do. Yeah, it's vain. I get it. But it's better. It's a lot better. And I've already talked about this, but I think I'm going to, if it's cool, I would like to just say it again. Freedom from chronic illness. My father, I love him. He's done everything for me. He supports everything. He's so encouraging. My father's a good man. Straight up. He's such a good man. Sacrificed so much. He's had 4 heart attacks. 4 of them. Following the standard American diet, but he avoided the fat like crazy, got extra lean, ground beef, took the skin off of any chicken he ate, typically stuck to actually breast meat. Lots of vegetables, margarine, seed oils. Buddy was faithful. 4 heart attacks. And he wasn't a lazy man. My father was not like me, where I sat for a living. My father worked heavy construction for most of his life, just hard labor, farm work and construction, stuff like that, and finished his working career in the movies, building sets and stuff like that. Hardworking man. He was physically active. And 4 heart attacks, as I keep repeating myself. Imagine being free from that. You'd be 88 years old, and instead of barely making it up the stairs and barely able to sit down, we got to get you a big fancy electric chair so you can ease your way into it. Imagine that you hold on to a youthful type of flexibility and energy up into your 90s. There's this lady in Alberta. I don't know where I am. I mean, I'm on the east coast of Canada. So, point to the west. There's a nice lady in Alberta. She's a rancher, 82 years old, climbing up and over fences to keep cattle in. She's out there with throwing hay and doing tools and completely physically active. And I'm seeing tons of wonderful older people who are in their 70s and couldn't dream of climbing over a fence. They have a hard enough time just going up the stairs. And I see that I've taken my mouth away again. I'll get better at this. I promise. I really will. Just got to be conscious of this thing. What I've been hearing also. Okay, so I'm like, imagine, like you prevent those issues, right? You prevent those issues. But imagine, okay, I've been hearing this. I've been hearing this from many people who are in their 60s, 70s, and 80s who adopt the carnivore diet, increase heavily, or even just ketovore, right? They're still eating some vegetables, but they've increased heavily the animal fat and the animal protein. And they find themselves reversing their diabetes. They find themselves reversing fatty liver disease, and then just and reversing heartburn, I guess, and other digestive issues, Crohn's disease, and irritated bowel syndrome and stuff like that. Don't be taking my word for it. These are just the things I've been hearing. Please do your own research. But imagine you're 85 years old, 82, whatever. You change your diet, and 50% of your pills are now taken out of out of your daily regimen, and you're suddenly saving 50% on your pill purchase every single month. Would it be worth it? As I cover my mouth, you can't hear me. Would it be worth it? Is that interesting? Yeah, I'm freaking such a salesman. I was on my way to becoming diabetic. And it wasn't something that I really was admitting to, nor did I understand that that's really what was happening. I just, okay, you're getting older. Life goes on. And I reversed that. I reversed that pre-diabetes. Now I can consume a soda pop. This one that you saw me drinking here, this is actually a diet soda. I still need to overcome this, but I actually could consume an entire drink of 7 Up this tall, and I wouldn't feel sick afterward. There'd be no trip to the hospital. There'd be no rushing me to get some insulin. Like, I'm better. High blood pressure. How many people who are, in their 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and so on, who have now gotten high blood pressure, and they just increase their animal fat, omit carbohydrates or minimalize them. But, I'm a big fan of the omitting. Still keep your vegetables, right? Keep your vegetables and spices and whatever, right? No more high blood pressure. 84 years old, and suddenly you don't need your blood pressure pills. Lord have mercy. I'll take it. I'll take it. What time are we at right now? 11:54. An hour and 23 minutes. Man, yeah. You getting bored yet? I love this stuff. I freaking love this stuff. When I taught people how to drive, it was incredible watching people overcome problems, anxiety, just fear of the road. I remember this one young lady. Yeah, one young lady. There were so many who had experienced car crashes, and they were terrified getting behind the wheel. And sitting beside her and getting to coach her and getting to watch her navigate that car around a corner and navigate that car and learn and learn and learn, and suddenly getting into heavy downtown Vancouver, so heavy city traffic, and overcoming her fear and gaining a freaking skill and being able to experience freedom. You mean I could get from my home and all the way to BC Place Stadium and do that all by myself? I wouldn't need my mom. I wouldn't need my dad. I wouldn't have to take transit, which we know transit's super dangerous. She could actually on her own by herself and safely make it through the city traffic, never crash, never hurt anybody. I love watching people succeed and watching people overcome obesity, overcome heart disease. That sounds silly. How do I say this in a more realistic way? Because I'm hearing the stories of people of that, but overcoming heartburn, overcoming digestion issues, overcoming obesity. I watched this one guy. His name is Bill Knott, weighed over 700 pounds, got onto the carnivore diet. He's now lost 370 pounds, 50 pounds, something like that. But he was housebound, almost bedbound, almost just before he got on the diet. Carrie from Homestead he's how I learned about Bill Knott. And he helped him lose that. Well, he just got him on the diet, right? But he did the work himself. Bill Knott did the work himself. He got a lot of encouragement from the carnivore community, from the internet, from people like you, actually, right? You're honest, you're real, you freaking want what's true. And when you understand something to be true and you see somebody else discovering that which is true, you want to encourage them. Bill got that. He's now outside, running around all over Alaska and walking easily and riding on his ATV quad. I know him as a quad. It's amazing. Freedom from obesity is amazing. And you take this, okay? And you're getting better and you're starting to feel better. And what this does for your mental and emotional state, I'll take mine. I don't think I really do suffer from quote unquote clinical depression. You know what I'm saying? If I'm depressed, there's stuff going on in my life that is contributing to that attitude, right? And when I changed my diet and the weight started coming off and the heartburn was ending and the back pain was ending, and suddenly I could go for a walk in the park and not suffer from when I left the car till I got back to the car. I did feel better. I really did. There's gentleman, and you think I've got the book ready? Of course I don't have the book ready. I was thinking about this gentleman. He wrote a book that focused on, I'm looking it up as I'm talking to you here because I want to see if I could say the actual author's name. Could I find it quickly? Why We Get Sick? No, that's a great book. That's a great book. As I look at the camera instead of the TV screen, that is a great book. Why We Get Sick. It's amazing how the body works, and in a lot of ways, how simple it is for us to work with it. Wildly complex how it works in and of itself, but really simple on how we can work with it. Man, it's amazing. But it is come on. What's it called? Oh, sugar. Hot diggity dog. I did not prepare this ahead of time and now I'm suffering the consequences. Sugar. Okay, there's one called Change Your Food, Change Your Diet, Change Your Brain. But there was another one that had to do with this gentleman. He was a clinical psychologist, I want to say. He did a bunch of work in psychology, and he had lots of patients who were dealing with not dementia, but bipolar, depression, anxiety. I want to say autism, but the first three: bipolar, depression, and anxiety. And the medications that are used to manage those mental conditions have a lot of really, really hard side effects. One of them is obesity. And a lot of people, as I smack this thing again, a lot of people who have these mental conditions cannot. Come on, Rodney. Stay focused. A lot of these people who get these, who have these mental conditions and take the medications end up becoming really, really obese and end up having other mental side effects. But it's kind of like, do you deal with the schizophrenia or do you deal with medication? Do you deal with the wild depression or do you deal with the medication? And it's one or the other, and a lot of people, yeah, they do take the medication because I don't know, maybe it's predictable. And it does give a sense of relief. It really does. It really does. And this doctor, and I've got to remember the name. In fact, once this live stream is finished and it's uploaded, I'll put it into the show notes. I think that's what they call it, where the description is. I'll put it in there and I'll get you the book, which book it is and the author. So that way you can tell I'm not just making stories up from myself. Got him on to a carnivore diet for the purposes of losing weight. That's all it was for. But he'd been learning about low carb and all that kind of stuff. And this guy, who had been super obese and could barely leave his house, I think this is how this was, got onto this diet and started making mental improvements. The schizophrenia, the shut-inism, like he was always a shut-in. If he went outside, he was terrified and believing everybody was out to get him and stuff like that. And like for real, like it was just his brain could not function in the outside world. There was a safety, a comfort inside inside of a room because that was safe. That was predictable. People are not. Excuse me. I am talking so much. I need another drink. Excuse me. So he starts eating this way, and his brain starts to get better. Kerry from Homestead How, you can look him up. He talks about it all the time. He was on a whole host of medications, and one of the things he was dealing with was depression, and I think anxiety, but definitely depression. Starts eating this way, and his mind cleared up. I have heard interview after interview of wonderful people struggling with mental, like depression, anxiety, things like that. And I want to say, yeah, and bipolar. Yeah, I am remembering a specific interview, though I do not remember where I heard it. That'd be hard to find. Nonetheless, starts eating high animal fat and protein, and the depression disappears. The depression gets better. The anxiety gets better. The bipolar gets better. Now, I really got to state, I am only repeating stories I have heard. We need to do our own research and never jump off of medications that you're taking. Lord have mercy. I've heard the horror stories. Dr. Jordan Peterson hopped off of a medication that he was taking and he did it the wrong way. He didn't do it with the doctor's help. And I think he almost lost his life, not due to suicide, but due to other issues. I don't fully understand it. So, this is, I'm just saying that if we adopt a heavy animal protein and animal fat diet, I'm arguing that there are many, many benefits to doing that for the people that do it. But make sure to do your own research and make sure always work with your physician. As I was saying before, physicians for the most part are not trying to hurt us. They really do want to help us. And as I'm looking back here and I'm checking how long I've been broadcasting, I think I'll keep going for a while longer here. So I really want to help. Common objections and fears. One of the common objections is that isn't eating all meat dangerous? You've heard it. I've heard it. Red meat leads to cancer. Red meat leads to heart disease. Eat animal fat leads to all kinds of just problems. And the big one is heart disease. Clogged arteries. If you eat high fat diet, if you eat a lot of animal fats, you're going to get heart disease. I think it's the CDC. I want to say it's the CDC. has removed saturated fat as a contributor to heart disease or clogged arteries. And apparently, the cause of heart disease, maybe, as I'm learning, nobody really knows exactly what's causing heart disease. We just know that there's some ideas, right? And cholesterol is found in the blockages of arteries. It actually is found, but so is calcium. And calcium makes up a large part of it. And what I'm learning is that your arteries are damaged through um, damaged cholesterol, sugar, and stress. I don't think seed oils have anything to do with this, but just the stress. And when the damage takes place, the body sends in, um, uses materials. I don't know what it uses to actually make the fix, but it uses materials to fix that damage. And a part of the materials is cholesterol because our blood vessels and cell walls are made up partially of cholesterol. And I guess I don't understand the calcium, but it seems like there's a large amount of calcium that gets caught up in these places, in these damaged sites. And so when we have a lot of stress that's repeated, constant stress, so chronic stress, and we're consuming a lot of sugar, and this is in the form also of carbohydrates, your potatoes, your and your breads, your pastas, and things like that, which spikes our insulin, and I guess there's damage somehow that happens with that. And then what did I say? Stress, and then bad cholesterol. That was what it was. Bad cholesterol. So cholesterol gets damaged somehow in our bodies through stress. And I want to say through seed oils, something like this. Anyways, this goes to the site, and it gets, or pardon me, the site gets redamaged and redamaged and redamaged through these different systems, and the repair materials go there to fix it, but it's redamaged again, which causes a buildup, eventually resulting in a clogged artery. And what I'm learning is that if you have a life that has moments of stress, but is mostly peaceful, and you have a really healthy diet, that damage that happens in our arteries to everybody, it actually gets repaired. But the scar tissue, the materials that were used to fix that spot, that actually disappears, and it becomes a whole vessel again. That's what I'm hearing, and it seems to hold water. From the research that I've been reading, and the research that I've been listening to, because I listen to a lot of podcasts um, of doctors sharing their incredible knowledge, incredible knowledge. And this seems to be what is taking place, is that if your body is able to heal and that spot doesn't get redamaged again, it has good material, it can actually repair. It can repair a lot. I was about to say everything, but that's not true. If you end up missing a limb, the body doesn't repair that. um, oh yeah, what about cholesterol and heart health? So what I'm learning, yeah, again, it used to be there was an illustration that would be used to show that heart disease, that cholesterol clogs your arteries. And so what they would do is they would have a pipe, and they would pour the cholesterol in, or the fat down the pipe, and then the fat would coat the pipe, and then it would eventually get clogged up. And they're saying, well, look, that's what happens in our bodies. And I never put this together. I believed it too. But it's just like, wait a second. How does the cholesterol get from the stomach, pass through the entire body, and not coat all of that stuff, and eventually make itself inside the arteries of our heart? And then there's all kinds of vessels around our heart that get absolutely clogged up. And how come it didn't clog up everything else? Only this. And it's like, wait a second. Maybe that isn't how it works. Maybe it's different. And what I'm learning is that our bodies actually are partially made up of huge amounts of cholesterol. Our bodies produce cholesterol. If you don't consume cholesterol, our bodies can and do produce a certain amount of cholesterol to keep certain essential functions functioning. And if we then eat cholesterol, the body then doesn't produce as much, and it uses the cholesterol that we consume. And so the idea that cholesterol is going to clog or harm our bodies, it seems like that's actually a fallacious argument. Man, it's amazing. Um, won't you get bored or deficient? Okay, first I'll just deal with the deficiency. I dealt with that a bit already, where I talked about how meat has all the nutrients that you need. Red fatty meat, how do I say this now? Rudiment fatty. So fatty red meat has all the nutrients and the portions that you need it, uh, and is bioavailable. And it is a good idea to consume some seafood. If you can handle it, consume some seafood because that'll help with your iodine levels and stuff like that. And consume salt. Hook it up, boss. Hook it up. I don't take any supplements of any kind. None. None. I've had no deficiency issues. None. Freak, man. Saves money, man. I'll tell you that. It saves you a lot of money. But the big one that I hear a lot is, oh yeah, getting bored. There's a video, and I need to do a reaction video to this. And it's this wonderful young lady, and all of a sudden she's going to eat the carnivore diet, and she eats 3 meals, beautiful, gorgeous freaking steak with salt on it, and a nice soft yolk fried egg. And she's like, that was delicious. Then she goes to the next. She says that she gets this. She had this taste of meat in her mouth that she couldn't get out. Okay, cool. Hey, it's her experience. And then she goes to her next meal, and she tries to have ground beef. What is it? Ground beef with butter and eggs, and she couldn't finish the meal. Could not finish the meal, and she's like, "Ugh, I don't want no more." And then she went to her third meal, and she found herself disgusted with what she was about to eat: fried, big, beautiful fried steak. And the question is, okay, wait a second, Rodney. There is an example. There is an example of someone getting bored within a day. First things first. When you're eating the proper human diet, when you're consuming large amounts of protein and fat, your body gets nourished really quickly and really well. And all of a sudden, your body doesn't need the amount of food that it normally would request from us when we're eating the normal diet. It's not uncommon for me, to eat like once a day, as I talk like a total teenager. It's not uncommon. I'll eat once a day. So the first thing to understand is that when we don't feel hungry for the food, we're probably not hungry. Don't need anything. When we get to a place where we're actually hungry, like we're really hungry, our stomach is more than just our stomach is empty, it's our body is actually requesting nutrients. Go back, I would tell that nice young lady, fry that steak again from fresh and knead it. And she would find it, I would argue she'd find it absolutely delicious. But then, okay, you've been eating ribeye for the last month. Who's going to be able to do that? I'll argue that's based on employing the method I just described. Say it's actually very doable. There's lots of people. There are a lot of people that do it. That being said, chicken, pork, baking, frying, smoking, shrimp, scallops, salmon, cod. What I'm trying to describe is variety. Purchase variety and cook in various ways. Not to mention, there are a lot of people that do use spices. I don't use a lot. I use seasoning salt and salt, no pepper. I've never been the biggest fan of pepper. I'll eat it, but I've never been into it. Even in my when I was eating normally, I found pepper just It wasn't my favorite. Overused, maybe. But lots of people do use a lot of spices to help create variety. But then, as their body adjusts and as their taste buds adjust to this new way of eating, they find that they eat only when they're actually hungry. And then, when they're actually hungry, their body responds properly to the nutrition that they're giving it. And you don't actually get bored. I myself, I find that I'm not bored, and I eat decently with a decent amount of variety. Though I have to admit, I never grew bored of hamburgers. I got a weakness for hamburgers. Freaking love hamburgers, man. Hot dog, freaking beautiful Big Mac with cheese, the 9 yards, of Wendy's cheese. Yeah, yeah, I'm into it. Um, but eating this meat, eating the way that I do, I don't find that I get bored. I'm having to learn baking more, smoking, uh, different ways of cooking the meat to get different types of textures. But when I'm actually truly hungry, I don't need a lot of variety. And what I'm becoming convinced of is that we have been sold a lie. You've heard this line. I don't know how much. I'm sure you've heard this line 1,000 times. We have been sold a lie. Here's what I think the lie is: we need variety in order to be healthy, which is really, really good for our which is really, really good for the businesses that benefit from the products that we will now want to buy. Imagine if we only ate just a few things: chicken, pork, beef. How many businesses would profit from what we eat if that's what we ate? I'm going to argue we were sold that we need to eat a lot of meat for the eat a lot of meat. Can I even say my point? I believe that we were sold the idea that we need a lot of variety for the purposes of selling products. We are the only species on the planet that somehow apparently requires huge variety in order for us to be healthy. I shouldn't say the only planet. I shouldn't say we're the only animal. That's not fair. The vast majority of creatures on the planet eat very, very select foods. Very, very select. And the reason why I'm backing off saying the only animal is because I believe that if I say we're the only animal, someone's going to come up with, like, the aardvark or a pig, or I don't know, the something unctus, as I try to come up with a made up word that is an omnivore. And so, like, I've heard people say that the bear is an omnivore. I'm curious, just how omnivore is the bear actually? Like, what? How varied is that food actually? And I've heard that pigs are supposed to be omnivores, but I'm thinking, if you put a pig in its natural habitat, how varied is that food really? And it's just doubt, right? Because I've seen so many lies being propagated, talked about, pushed. I can't get the right word. I'll just say pushed in the media and in the schools and just in the world around us. I'm becoming doubtful of things that have always been believed, or things that have been said for a short time but everywhere. I'm becoming doubtful of that. Because you go back to, say, like 18 or 1925, did people think that bears were omnivores? Did they? I think that's a new idea. I'm getting dry. I gotta start consuming water. It's a bad habit I'm in. Diet sodas. Bad habit. Anyways, I think that if we were to work with our bodies the way our bodies are actually designed, and we were to, yes, absolutely restrict our diets, our lives would end up with a huge amount of variety. Think about this. You get up in the morning, right? And the first thing you got to think about is probably just getting to work. But very shortly, you've got to think about, what are you going to eat? And then after that meal, you got to think about, what are you going to eat? And then after that meal, what are you going to snack on? And then what are you going to eat and what are you going to snack on? And our lives are very much circling around a lot of time in the kitchen and around food. And I've enjoyed it. Come on, I freaking like lasagna, like pizza, like, all these nice foods. Not that I didn't enjoy them, but with that enjoyment came a cost in the way that I could live, both financially and physically. If I was to restrict my food, and this is not an argument that I've come up with because I think it's a good argument, but it's not mine, but I like it. If we restrict our food, our lives become unrestricted. Imagine if you knew every day that you were going to eat a ribeye steak. Just pretend with me. Like, maybe it's not boring. Let's just pretend it's not going to be boring, right? And you knew every day you're going to have a ribeye steak, and your fridge is full of those ribeye steaks, cut the way you need them. You're going to fry them up, and in like 15 minutes, you're at the table having your meal, and that happens once a day or once every 2 days. Would you have more time for the things that you would like to do? Excuse me. That's what's happened to me. I have more time, a lot more time. I'm not chopping and dicing a whole bunch of plants. I'm not doing a whole bunch of dishes. I'm not having to spend a ton of time in the kitchen. Let's say I'm going to do some baking for my roast, right? And I'm going to roast it for, I don't know, let's say 2 hours, just because whatever. Do I have to stay in the kitchen for 2 hours for that to happen? No. Just put it in there and go about the rest of my day doing whatever things I need to do. Come back, remove it from the oven, let it rest for 10 minutes or 20 minutes, cut it, eat it, clean up the plate and the roasting pan, and I'm good for the rest of the night. I don't have a dishwasher, and I spend about as much time washing dishes as I would if I was eating the regular, say, the standard American diet or vegetarian or vegan and had a dishwashing machine. I spend about the same amount of time washing dishes. I like it. It's easy. And I do claim to be a lazy man. I claim that. I think I am. But it's simple. I mean, fried eggs, beef, ground beef, chicken, pork, fish, whatever, right? I don't do a lot of crazy things with that stuff. I actually cook pretty simple. I'm lazy and I can be quite impatient. I'd rather not spend the extra time in the kitchen. I like getting in there and out and done so I can come up here and do something like this. Now, admittedly, it's late at night, right? Where I am, it's now 12:23. But I had time to do the preparation to be able to do this. I have time for my anime, I have time for my video games, time for my friends, my family, time for my dad, because I'm not spending so much time in the kitchen doing all the prep work. Or I still want all that time, so I compromise and I buy all the pre-cooked food and the easy to cook and quick food like macaroni and cheese and Mr. Noodles. I mean, Mr. Noodles cooks up really fast. It's nice, good stuff. In the taste. I don't think that we get bored. I don't think we would, especially when our lives become greater. Because not only, like, I'm sitting here fussing on the kitchen, but what if you had just tons of more energy? So when you get home from work, you're not all wore out. You actually have the energy to do more. And you wouldn't be forcing yourself. You'd be like restless in your chair. You'd be like, man, I don't want to sit here watching nothing. I got to go out and do something. And this is reported by a lot of people who increase their meat and their fat significantly. They go nuts. They're like, oh, wow. And they grow in their activities because they've got way more energy. And they have more energy to take care of their children. So if you have young children, you may not be running out to go somewhere. But now we have more energy to run after our kids. It's amazing. If I keep this up, I'm going to end up going for way too long. The roadblocks that people face. I think this is a really important one. A lot of us face these kind of problems. A lot of us do. I did. And that is, like social pressure, right? So I was talking about before, I compromised because of Christmas, my birthday, Thanksgiving. And you've gone out to, you're going to get invited. Come on, you're a wonderful person. People love hanging out with you. And and when we hang out together, what does it surround? Food. Many cultures are their cultural, a part of their culture is the food, and it's delicious. You ever been to Italy? You ever had that stuff? Japan, Philippines, Mexico. You go and you taste that authentic food. Lord have mercy, man. They've had some time to perfect that food. But I've learned something. I've learned that when people understand, actually, no, here's a better way. Here's a better way of saying this. The vast majority of people are actually really accommodating, especially when we're really nice. When we're polite, we're respectful, and we're kind. People are actually really accommodating. Everywhere I've gone, if I say, hey, I can't, like right lately, I've been like super, super strict. I'm like, I can't have the thing. And I say, look, I get fat super easily. The moment I have this carbohydrate, I'm not going to lose weight for at least 3 to 4 weeks. And they get it. They're like, they actually respect it. That I'm dedicated like that. And I think that for most of us, the vast majority of us, if we just stuck to it, we're kind, we're nice about how we say it. We don't, people will be actually really, really accommodating, really accommodating. And a lot of times, what I'll do is I'll have one of my delicious meals before I go, and then I'll nibble on whatever animal product they may have there, or I can sit there with like my glass of water, or maybe there I could compromise on a diet drink or something like that. And people are accommodating because the vast majority of the time, what they really want is us. They want you. They just want to spend time with you. And that's really what it is. You share your stories, what's going on with your business or your job, your kids, politics, religion, whatever. You talk with your friends and your family the way you love to talk. The food is secondary to that. So go do it, man. And most people are really, really accommodating. Those who will judge you, those who will judge you. I guess this is my attitude now. My health is not worth their approval. Am I saying that right? Their approval is not worth my health. I want to be healthy. I don't want to be fat, real bad. And getting their approval at the expense of getting healthy, no, 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 no. It's not. It's too costly. Pills and stress and just the chronic illness. And one meal's not going to send you to the hospital. I get that. I get that. But like myself, I eat that one meal. I'm stuck on my weight loss journey for at least 4 weeks. At least that. That means that instead of taking a year to a year and a half to lose all my weight, now it's 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. And I'm not trying to lose weight for the opinions of others, but everybody knows I'm doing this diet, you're doing this diet, and all of a sudden 4 years later, you're still trying to lose the weight. How convincing is that? But more, I just want to lose the weight. Adaptation struggles, so the keto flu and carb cravings. Now, the carb cravings, I kind of struggled with those, but I understand for some of us, that is a super difficult challenge. And what most people I've heard talk about this. So, what is her name? Zero Carb Life. And her name is amazing name. I cannot think of her name, but she stated that a lot of the wonderful ladies that she works with struggle with the carb addiction. One of the solutions is just, if you have the ability, get rid of all carbs in your kitchen. Just get rid of it. And the person you're living with, if they're really helpful, maybe they'll go along with you. But a big one is, okay, there's two methods that I've heard from Zero Carb Life, and then there's Dr. Ken Berry and Stella from Steak and Butter Gal. So the first one is ease off of it. Take your time. Don't rush and just dive headlong into the carnivore diet, because the cravings can get really, really bad. And so if you ease off of it, maybe it gives your body a chance, right? And the other one is abstain. Just cut it off. Just get rid of it. and you'll suffer for a bit. You absolutely will. But if you snack on eggs and meat and whatever all, your cravings will fade in time. And get around, make sure to get yourself connected to a community. I wish I had a community right now so I could say, hey, connect to my community and we'll support you. But right now, I'm too little. I'm too little to do that. But Steak and Butter Gal and Dr. Ken Berry, and there's a whole bunch of people that have communities that you can tap into to get that emotional support when you're trying to struggle through these kind of, I mean, that carb diet, the food addiction, man, that stuff is real. That stuff is freaking real. I was learning that sugar affects the brain the same way as, is it cocaine or something like that? It's a drug. It's a drug. It's a drug. No wonder is where people are so addicted. So get the help that you need. And if it means you got to abstain, then abstain. If you got to ease off, ease off. But once you've gotten off of it, don't compromise. Oh man, I've said it. I'm not an authority, but man, I've had this experience. Don't compromise. So many people, when they have, it's like many people, wonderful human beings who have been able to beat alcohol or be able to beat cigarettes. And if they just have that one drink, they have that one toke. Nobody says toke unless it's marijuana. But it has the one drag. Um, They fall off the wagon, and all of a sudden, they're weeks to years back into that problem. Don't compromise. Just stay the course. It will fade, especially as you get yourself surrounded by the people who are doing the same thing. And praise God for the internet because, like, look at what you and I are doing right now. You're listening to me. I'm freaking here in New Brunswick. I'll bet you're somewhere in the US, and we're able to come together. And even though I don't know you personally, and we're not able to have a personal conversation, you can listen. That's a part of it. But if you got a part of a community, and all of a sudden you're sitting there listening to all people going through their journey, and you come together and you're encouraging each other, you can make it. You can overcome it. You really, really can. The keto flu and things like that, a lot of that is mineral deficiencies. So like iodine and electrolytes. For me, I consumed more fish, just more fish, canned fish, whatever was cheap, and salt. Because I got some leg cramps one night. Woke me up with a whole pile of pain. Lord have mercy. Freaking Charlie horse. Yeah, that was great. But I increased my iodine intake and I increased my electrolyte intake by just consuming more salt and more fish, and it went away. I don't have the problem anymore. I can stretch my legs and there's no pain. Um, how long are we? 2 hours. Holy crap. What a chatterbox over here. What a freaking chatterbox. You know, if you do have any questions, go ahead and pop them in. I will lean myself over like crazy so I can see whatever questions that come up. But I will say this. I want to encourage you, and I was kind of already alluding to this, but I want to say it really directly now. We can lose weight. We can be healthy. We really can be. We don't have to be sick. And the vast majority of the time, the issue is what we are consuming. Yes, there's genetics, but I'm going to argue that the vast majority of the time, this is just my uneducated opinion after I've done so much studying, that the vast majority of the time, our genetics gives us a propensity towards a challenge, an issue. So, like, I get fat really, really easily. My best friend, Tim, buddy eats like crazy. He does not get fat really easily. But I am not destined to be fat simply because of my genetics. I can control that. I do have some say over that. I really do. And I think we all do. We have say over the health that we have when it comes to the chronic sicknesses. If we get some kind of an infection because of water we drink or something like that, that's a bit different. But when it comes to the sicknesses that are chronic, I think we have say. I think we can actually really do something about that. You don't have to be sick. I don't have to be sick. Our children do not have to be sick. Our grandparents, our parents, depending on how old we are, don't have to be sick. We really can freaking do something about this. And I want to see us get to a place where one day the doctors still exist and they're doing a wonderful job dealing with acute injury, I think it's called acute illness. I think it's something like that, where they're dealing with something that can be cured, fixed, and made better. Instead of just simply being a illness manager, they would get to be an illness fixer, be able to actually cure something. It's not Dr. Philip Ovadia. There's just one doctor. I can't think of his name right now. That's one of the things that he was getting depressed. Actually, Dr. Ken Berry, he talks about this, where he was getting depressed because all he was doing was just giving people pills, prescription, 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 and people were not getting better. They weren't getting better. And this was causing him to get literally clinically depressed. Clinically depressed. It was really messing him up. And now all of a sudden, instead of being an illness manager, he gets to be an illness healer and actually help people in a real way. Doctors are people too. And they want to feel like they're making a difference. They're not just earning a paycheck, that they could do more in life. Yes, there's all kinds of people who are very shallow, and the only thing they want to do is just make some money, right? But the vast majority of doctors would actually like to help people. That's why they got into medicine in the first place. And I would like to see a day come where the doctors really do get to be illness healers. I'd like to see that. As a driving instructor, I got to take somebody who did not know how to drive and got them to a place where they could drive safely in heavy, dangerous traffic, never have a crash. I was able to help people who had anxiety about the road, and they could and get them to a place where they could really drive. I helped people with learning disabilities, and it was all they could do to survive in the academic world, and they became proficient drivers, passing their road test with flying colors. What if doctors got to have that kind of joy? I'm not better than no doctor. I'm just saying that I got to enjoy that. I got to actually help people for real. Think about the work you do, right? Maybe you have a very humble job. Maybe you're a cashier at McDonald's. You at least get to actually give them the burger. People walk away with their hunger dealt with. Doctors regularly do not get to actually do that which they dreamed of doing and what their title implies. I'd like to see that come to a place where they could. I thank you for watching. I hope you have an amazing day. God bless you. God be with you. And may you have success that is meaningful to you. I thank you for watching. Bye for now. Now, how do I stop this? There it is.